Good morning, class.
Good morning.
Today we are going to be reading The Gift of the Crocodile, a Cinderella story by Judy Sierra, illustrated by Reynolds Buffins. Today when we read The Gift of the Crocodile, a Cinderella story, we are going to be looking at what challenges the main character went through. What lesson might she have learned in the story? What motive does she have to do what she does in the story? What actions does she take in the story? What character traits do we notice in the story? And were there any consequences for anything bad that she did? And just the character in general. We're going to be looking at all these things as I read the story to you today. When I look at the title, The Gift of the Crocodile, and it says a Cinderella story, that helps me to think in my mind about the genre. So what do you think the genre is? Yes.
Fiction.
I think it's fiction too. How can you compare the words a Cinderella story to the genre? What helps you figure the genre out? Yes. Because Cinderella was a fiction story, and also it includes the word story. And what do we know about the elements of a story? Yes. In the Spice Islands, where clove and nutmeg trees grow, a girl named Demora lived long ago. Demora's mother taught her to kindle a fire and cook, to tend to harvest rice plants, and to dance the graceful dances of their ancestors. Who can tell me where this setting is? In the illustration, what do you see?
Demora and her mother.
Demora and her mother. Very good. And the Spice Islands. There came a time when Demora's mother grew weak, and she knew she would not live much longer. So she called the girl to her bedside and reminded her to respect all wild creatures, for they would help and comfort her. Later, when Demora missed her mother, she would talk to the lorikeet and the little green parrot, who came to perch on nutmeg trees. How do you think Demora is feeling now that her mother has passed? Yes.
Sad.
She's feeling sad. Yes. One day, as Demora knelt by the river, washing the family's clothes, the current swept away her old ragged sarong. Demora was afraid to return home without it, and she began to cry. Then she remembered her mother's advice. "Creatures of the wild, help me," she called out. Slowly, an ancient crocodile arose from the river and stepped onto the rocks. Demora showed no fear. "Good morning, grandmother," she said. "It was wise of you to call me grandmother," the crocodile replied. "For if you had not, I might have eaten you." Why are you crying? Why was she crying?
Because she lost her sarong.
She lost her sarong. What challenges has Demora faced so far in the story? Yes. Her mother passed away. Demora's mother passed away. What other problems or challenges did she have in the story? Yes. She lost her sarong. Why is that a problem? Why is that a problem? Yes. In the story. Very good. So we're going to put that right here next to challenge, and let's keep reading, okay? Grandmother Crocodile splashed out of the water, holding it in her mouth a silver sarong that sparkled like the night sky. I see a simile. What is it? Yes.
Sparkle like the night sky.
Sparkle in the night sky. And what word told me it was a simile? Yes.
Eyes. Light.
Like, the word like. Sparkled like the night sky. Very good. "This is not my sarong," Demora sighed. "Mine is old and torn." This is one that you deserve. With excitement, for the prince had invited all the young women to dance at the palace. He would choose the loveliest as his bride. Let's think about the Cinderella story. Can we compare that to the Cinderella story? Let's look at some motives for Demura. Why do you think she kept it a secret of who she was when she went to the ball? Yes.
So her stepmother couldn't know?
Why was that important?
Because her stepmother would tell her stepsister, and her stepsister would do the same thing.
Absolutely. Do you think that she would be able to go if she did tell her stepmother?
No.
Probably not. Let's look at character's perspective for the statement of her stepsister. You needn't try it on her, said the stepsister. She is only my servant. What does that tell you? Yes.
Her stepsister thinks of her as a servant.
Her stepsister only sees her as a servant. Does she think highly of her?
No.
No, she kind of thinks that Demura is beneath her. Not to mention, it says that she showed up wearing what?
Rags.
Rags. Is that a beautiful gown or a beautiful dress?
No.
No, you're wearing rags. It probably looks old, torn, and rough. So they probably don't even see her as being a pretty girl. They just see, she is my servant. Almost like to say she is not even worthy of being here to try this on. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Good. The girl is so shabby, said the prince's counselor. Even though the slipper fits, you don't have to marry her. Rich or poor, the prince declared, she is my choice. Demura ran to the river to ask Grandmother Crocodile for her golden clothes and carriage. And when she reappeared, she was beautiful as she had been the evening before. The wedding celebration was the most splendid ever seen, and afterward, Demura lived in the palace as a princess should. Demura's stepmother and stepsister were eaten up with jealousy. With what?
Jealousy.
A few days after the wedding, they arrived saying sweetly, "We are so sorry for the way we treated you, Demura. Let's take a boat ride on the river and become friends again." Do you see something suspicious with that last statement?
Yes.
Right? I'm thinking to myself, why a boat ride on the river? And how come all of a sudden there's being nice and sweet? So inside my brain, my wheels are turning. I'm thinking really hard. It says that they're jealous, and then it says that they're being nice. Do you find that when some people are trying to be sly, they compliment you with nice things to get what they want? Have you seen that before?
Yes.
Yeah, so I am not too trusting at this point of the stepsisters or the stepmother, okay? It ends with, "We are so sorry for the way we treated you, Demura. Let's take a boat ride on the river and become friends again." So I want you to turn and talk with your partner, and I want you to predict what's going to happen next in the story based on how they've treated her so far, okay? Here we go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Talk.
I think that she's because she has
All right, turn back in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Very good. I heard some good predictions. Now let's see if anything of what you said actually happens in the story, okay? Demora agreed, for she thought they had changed their ways. But when the boat reached the middle of the river, they pushed her overboard. Before she could draw a breath, she was swallowed by a crocodile. The two women paddled back to shore and ran to the palace shouting, "Demura has fallen into the river! A crocodile has swallowed her!" They hoped that their prince would soon forget her and marry the stepsister. Raise your hand if you predicted that they would do that. I did too. Very good. What are some of the actions that the characters did? Yes. Who is they? The stepsisters pushed Demora overboard. That is so crazy. Anything else? Yes. They then ran and told the prince what? So they lied, right? Because they lied. So they lied to the prince. In hopes of what? The prince would forget her. Absolutely. All right, let's see. The prince went at once to the riverbank and shouted, "Grandmother! Grandmother!" The great creature appeared and swam toward him. "Why have you come here?" she asked. "Princess Demura has been eaten by a crocodile," he cried. Grandmother Crocodile thrashed her tail in anger. She called together all her river children and asked, "Which one of you dared eat my precious grandchild?" There was a long silence. Then a fat young crocodile confessed, "It was me. I did it." "Spit her out right now," commanded Grandmother Crocodile. She licked Demura's face and brought her back to life. "None of you shall ever touch Demura again, or her husband, or their children," she commanded. "But if you see her stepmother or stepsister, you must eat them at once." The stepmother and stepsister were hiding nearby, and when they heard Grandmother Crocodile's words, they fled into the darkest part of the forest, never to be seen again. Demora and her prince returned to the palace, where they lived for many years in the splendor and happiness. Their children splashed in the river and talked to the lorikeet and the little green parrot and played in the shade of the clove and nutmeg trees. Let's look at the consequences. What happened as a result of the stepmother and the stepsisters lying to the prince? Yes.
Well, the prince told the crocodile that if you see the grandmother or grandsisters, you must eat them at once.
Yes, they were to be eaten at once if they were to ever be seen again. That is the consequence for their bad behavior. Okay? They were to be eaten. Based on the story we read, what lesson can you learn? Yes.
Be careful who you trust.
Be careful who you trust. Why is that important? Yes. You might not know what they're going to do to you. What else? You can be in danger. Yes. All right, boys and girls, let's wrap this story up. Who can summarize and tell me what happened in the story within about 3 to 4 sentences? Yes. Yes.
At the beginning of the story, her mother died, and then she became a princess, and then at the end, they set her up and they threw her up.
What a nice summary. So today again we were looking at the character, the challenges she was going through, the lesson that we learned within the story, some of the character traits, consequences of what happens when you have bad behavior, some of the actions the character took, and their motives within the story for doing what they did. All right? Very good.